I caught my wife cheating after 30 years. My daughters knew the whole time, so I took brutal revenge. Most people recognize me as Hunter Davis. Mira and I spent close to 30 years as husband and wife. Our story began when she was just 19, and I was barely older at 22. At the time, we didn't have a single thing to our name. We were stuck in a tiny, rundown apartment that constantly reeked of someone else's cats. No amount of air fresheners or scrubbing ever got rid of the smell. Yet, I look back on those times fondly. We were young, madly in love, and starting our journey from nothing. Everything we eventually had, we built side by side through shared effort and determination. We raised 2 girls, Olivia and Chloe. Olivia is 26 these days, and she's always been the ambitious type. She excelled throughout her school years, thrived at university, and now holds a prestigious position in a sleek downtown office, complete with a skyline view most people only imagine. She's engaged to Ezekiel, a finance professional, and they had been organizing a lavish wedding set for this October, stylish, upscale, with all the bells and whistles. Chloe, now 24, has always been my gentle soul, the more imaginative of the two. Creativity runs deep in her. She's most at peace with a brush or pencil in hand, never one to chase conventional paths. We'd often pass the time together out in the garage. I'd be under the hood, tinkering with the car, while she'd sit nearby, chatting with me about everything and nothing. I truly thought she was my emotional rock, my forever little girl. Honestly, I did. Naturally, Mira and I didn't live out some perfect fairy tale romance. No couple does. We went through our share of hard times, especially when the girls were little. Finances were always tight. I worked in construction, sometimes juggling 2 gigs just to keep us above water. Mira pulled night shifts as a waitress while fitting in college classes during the day. We barely saw each other, and yes, we fought over calendars, expenses, and who drive the kids where, the usual stuff. But no matter what, we always found our way back to each other. That's what a true partnership is all about. You endure, you don't walk away, you stay committed. But over the past few months, I noticed something was off. Mira started behaving differently. It wasn't anything obvious, more like subtle shifts. She became oddly secretive with her phone. One night, I picked it up to check the time. Mine was in another room, and she nearly snatched it out of my hand. "What are you doing?" she snapped. "Just checking the time," I answered, thrown off. "You shouldn't just grab someone's phone like that. That's a boundary. We've been together 30 years. When did we start drawing phone boundaries?" Then came the frequent girls' nights with Olivia and Chloe. They used to meet occasionally, maybe once every few weeks. I always thought it was sweet, them keeping close. But suddenly, it became a regular thing, sometimes twice a week. When I asked where they went or what they did, Mira's answers felt increasingly vague. "Just dinner," she'd say, dropping her purse by the door. "Just catching up." She used to come home full of energy, telling me everything. Who said what, funny little stories, office drama. That dried up completely. No more gossip, just quiet smiles, like the laughter had disappeared. About 6 months ago, I returned from a trip earlier than planned. My meeting got canceled last minute, so I jumped on an earlier flight, figuring I'd surprise her. I didn't even text. When I walked through the door around 2 in the afternoon, the house was still. I heard her talking in the kitchen, laughing, chatting fast on the phone, but the second she saw me, she froze and hung up instantly. "Hey," I said, dropping my suitcase. "Who were you talking to?" She looked startled for a moment, then smiled quickly. "Olivia." "Oh, yeah. What were you two chatting about? Just the wedding?" "Nothing big, just wedding stuff. Nothing important," she said without looking at me, stepping back to the sink to rinse a mug. Something about her voice, her whole vibe, felt off. It didn't sound like she'd been talking to our daughter. Not long after that, I walked into the kitchen and caught Chloe whispering to Mira. "I only heard a piece of it. Do you think he knows?" They both stopped and turned toward me quickly, eyes wide, like I'd caught them in the middle of something they didn't want me to hear. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to play it casual. Mira smiled too casually. "Oh, just planning something for later." Chloe jumped in fast. "Yeah, it's a surprise. You'll find out soon." "A surprise?" I said, raising an eyebrow. "Just something fun," Mira said, brushing past me to open the fridge. "I assumed they were planning something for my birthday. It was coming up soon." At the time, it made sense. But then something else happened. Mira said she was driving up to Columbus to see her sister for the weekend. I didn't think twice. It had been a while since they'd caught up. I even helped her pack her suitcase and load the car. A few days later, I was on the phone with Olivia, just a normal check-in. She was rambling about Ezekiel's new golf obsession when she suddenly threw out a comment that hit me hard. "Oh, and Mom got some sun that weekend. She had a nice tan." I paused. "A tan?" "Yeah, she looked great. In Ohio, in February." There was this tiny pause, barely half a second, but it was there, and I felt it. "Oh, right," she said quickly. "We went to a tanning salon before she left. Kind of a random thing." I didn't say much, just nodded along even though she couldn't see me. "Right. Yeah, that explains it," I said with a forced laugh. Except it didn't explain anything. It didn't feel right. But was I going to start a fight over a tan? Probably not. Still, the moment stuck with me. It was like a splinter. Small, but irritating. From then on, I started noticing every little thing. Mira began switching up her appearance. It wasn't anything outrageous, just subtly different at first. Suddenly, she had outfits I didn't recognize. New, trendy stuff, slim-fit jeans, revealing tops, fresh shoes. Her makeup routine changed too. Not just for nights out or family events. She started wearing it all the time, even on quick runs to the supermarket. Then came the fitness obsession. Out of nowhere, she was hitting the gym 3 times a week. She hadn't shown any interest in exercise in more than 10 years. Now she was all in. Yoga, spin classes, lifting weights. On the surface, it seemed healthy, but deep down it felt strange, like someone had flipped a switch in her. Then there was the bracelet. A dainty silver one with a little charm that caught the light when she moved. One evening I noticed it on her wrist and said, "That's new, isn't it?" She flashed a grin that seemed a bit too rehearsed. "Oh, this? Bought it a while back. A reward to myself for hitting some sales goals." "It's pretty," I said, reaching out. "Looks kind of pricey." That was the wrong move. Her whole vibe shifted. Not angry, more like suddenly defensive. "Why do you always do that?" she shot back. "Do what? Act like I'm not allowed to buy myself something nice without it becoming a thing." "That's not what I meant," I replied, keeping my voice even. "I wasn't judging, just curious, that's all." She turned her gaze away from me. "Well, I don't question how much your tools cost. That one stung a bit, but I let it slide." I kept telling myself maybe I was reading too much into things. Maybe it was just an empty nester thing, adjusting to the quiet now that both girls were out of the house. After 30 years, people change. Maybe we were just finding a new rhythm. I didn't want to be that paranoid husband who freaks out because his wife got a makeover or started spending more time with family. That's never been me. I've always believed in Mira, never doubted her, but there was this nagging pressure in the back of my mind, a tension I couldn't shake, like the truth was staring me in the face, and I was too stubborn to acknowledge it. Then came a Tuesday that started like any other and ended like nothing I ever expected. I was on site at a construction project near 15th and Clover. It was lunchtime, so I climbed into my truck, opened my thermos, and started scrolling through emails. Usual stuff, team updates, shipping delays, the occasional spam. And then I saw it, "Your wife is cheating on you." At first I laughed out loud. Obvious spam, some scammer fishing for clicks. I expected some click here to find out more junk, but something told me to open it anyway. No links, no sketchy downloads, just one blunt message. "Mira's been sleeping with her boss, Ronan, for over a year. Everyone at her office knows. You're the only one who doesn't. Thought you should be aware." And below that, there was a video. I just sat there, staring at my screen. I couldn't even blink. 15, maybe 20 minutes passed, and I hadn't moved. My thumb hovered over the play button, but I couldn't bring myself to press it. A part of me desperately wanted it to be fake, a cruel joke, maybe someone with a grudge stirring up trouble. But then, without really thinking, I tapped play. It looked like it was recorded at an office holiday party. The lighting was soft, low. In the background, I could clearly make out Mira on a couch, sitting far too close to a man. I narrowed my eyes to get a better look, and my heart dropped into my stomach. It was him, Ronan, her boss. They weren't kissing, but the closeness was unmistakable. She leaned into him like it was second nature, his voice in her ear, his hand grazing her leg. It wasn't innocent, it was familiar, intimate. Then the camera angle shifted. It turned to a woman holding a wine glass, clearly tipsy, laughing too loud. Her face was familiar. I'd seen her before outside Mira's office when I'd picked her up a couple of times. "Oh my God, is that her husband?" The woman giggled, pointing in Mira and Ronan's direction. "No," came another woman's voice behind the camera, calm, emotionless. "Just someone recording now." "What were you saying about Mira and Ronan?" The drunk woman grinned and rolled her eyes. "Everyone already knows. They've been at it for like a year. They think they're slick, but come on. Those little work trips, the random lunches where they both disappear, please. She took another sloppy sip from her glass and added, he even bought her that bracelet she's always wearing, and that was it. My heart dropped. The bracelet, the one she claimed was a work reward. I felt the ground vanish beneath me. The woman behind the camera pushed again. How's she pulling it off? The drunk woman smirked, swirling her drink lazily. She's got her routine down, makes excuses, pretends she's stuck late or out running errands, but really, she's just with him. Then the footage ended, and there I sat, motionless, phone in hand. The silence in the cab of my truck was crushing. It felt like I couldn't breathe, like all the oxygen had been sucked out of that small space. I didn't know who sent it, but I had a suspicion. Vanessa, she worked with Mira. The two of them never got along, especially after Mira landed that major promotion last year. Vanessa didn't even try to hide her resentment. This had her fingerprints all over it. Her version of revenge. I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was jealousy, a mean-spirited prank, slurred words from a drunk woman who didn't know what she was talking about. But the longer I sat there, the more it all began to make sense, like puzzle pieces snapping into place that had been scattered in front of me the whole time. The secretive behavior, the dodgy answers, the mysterious phone calls, the gym obsession, the bracelet. I felt sick. My hands were trembling. There was no way I could go back to work. I called my foreman, said I had a family emergency, and I drove, but not home. I couldn't go back to that house, not with all the betrayal clinging to its walls. I didn't have a plan. I just drove until I wound up parked outside Dexter's place. We'd been tight since we were kids. He's the kind of guy who always keeps cold beer in the fridge and doesn't push unless you want to talk. When he opened the door and saw me, his face dropped. You okay, man? You don't look so good. I couldn't even answer. My throat was locked up wordlessly. I pulled out my phone, opened the video, and handed it to him. He didn't say a word the entire time, just stood there, eyes locked on the screen, jaw tight. When it finished, he let out a long, slow breath and passed the phone back to me. Jesus, he muttered. What now? I wish I knew, I croaked. My voice cracked in a way I didn't expect and hated. Part of me wanted to storm home, throw open the door, and make her admit it, look me in the eye, and say it out loud. But another part, maybe the side that still had some sense, knew better. That video was powerful, no doubt, but people twist things. It could still be chalked up to office gossip or bitter payback from someone like Vanessa. I needed more, something undeniable. That night, I stayed at Dexter's place, slept on his couch, or tried to. I texted Mira to say there'd been a sudden issue on one of the job sites and I'd be out of town for a couple of days. She responded almost immediately, okay, stay safe. That was it. No questions, no concern, not even a what's wrong. Just that, like nothing at all was unraveling behind the scenes, like she hadn't been living a lie. That calm, collected reply chilled me. The next evening, another text popped up, grabbing dinner with the girls, midweek catch-up, don't wait up. She even tossed in a heart emoji like she was reading her lines in some phony romance movie. I replied with a quick, have fun, grabbed my keys, and slipped out the front door. I drove across the city to a little restaurant where I knew Olivia and Chloe usually met up with her, parked around back, turned off the lights, and waited. The front of the place had tall glass windows that gave me a perfect view of the tables. I sat there in the dark, just watching. 20 minutes went by, then 30. No sign of her, but eventually I spotted them, Olivia and Chloe, at their regular spot near the window, laughing, drinking wine, acting like everything in the world was fine. But Mira, she wasn't there. My hands went cold on the steering wheel. I kept expecting her to show up late. She didn't. I finally grabbed my phone and sent Olivia a quick message. Hey, just checking. Did Mom make it there? Okay. The reply came almost instantly. Yeah, she's here. Why? I stared at the screen. My stomach twisted. That was a lie. A fast one. Too smooth, too automatic. They weren't just lying now. They'd been lying all along. They'd been helping her keep it hidden, telling me stories with straight faces while she was off playing house with someone else. My jaw tightened, and I opened the old location-sharing app we'd both kept installed years ago, back when safety meant something. Her little dot didn't show up at the bistro. It was miles away, across town, blinking right over a fancy Italian place with valet service and linen napkins. Mira always used to say that spot was too pricey, only for anniversaries or big deals. I didn't need to go there to know what I'd find, but I went anyway. Knowing didn't soften the blow. I parked a block away and walked up slowly, like that might somehow change what was waiting for me. It didn't. Through the window, there she was, Mira, sitting next to Ronan like they were on a honeymoon, practically curled into him, laughing, radiant. Her whole body language screamed comfort, happiness. She looked like she didn't have a care in the world, like our life hadn't just been burned to ash. I stood on the sidewalk, frozen, watching her tilt her head onto his shoulder. She looked at peace. They weren't even pretending to hide it. I thought I might throw up right there, but instead I reached for my phone, hands trembling. I took photos, dozens, every angle, close-ups, wide frames, as much evidence as I could gather. Then I opened our family group chat, the one with all of us, Mira, me, the girls, my parents, her parents, our siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, everyone. I attached the images, every single one. Then I typed one message. Hope dinner with the girls is going great, Mira. Looks like your boss is enjoying it too. Then I hit send. It was instant chaos. Olivia, Dad, what is this? Chloe, what's happening? My sister, is this some kind of joke? My mom, Hunter, please call me. Mira's brother, Mira, what's going on? My cousin, what the actual heck? My dad, you need to call me now. I didn't reply. What was I supposed to say? Hey, everyone, turns out my wife of 30 years is sleeping with her boss, and our daughters have been covering it up. How's your Wednesday? So I just kept driving. No destination, just headlights on pavement, and thoughts banging around in my head like marbles in a jar. I kept trying to figure out what I was going to say, what words even existed to explain what had just happened. By the time I pulled up to the house, it looked like a crime scene. Every light was on, shadows moving through the windows. I could see them all in the living room, Mira, Olivia, Chloe, sitting together like they were waiting on a verdict. The second I walked through the door, Olivia stood up fast. Dad, what is going on? Her voice was shaky, eyes wide. We've been freaking out. I didn't speak. I just pulled out my phone, opened the photo gallery, and walked over to Mira. I held it out. She took the phone with a look of dread. Her expression changed the moment she saw the first picture. She turned pale, swiped to the next one, then another. Her mouth opened slightly, but she didn't say a word. She stared at the screen like maybe if she didn't look away, it would somehow vanish. Then, finally, barely above a whisper, she asked, Who gave you these? I took them, I replied, my voice flat. Right after I got this. I opened the email and handed the phone back to her, then hit play on the video. The air in the room turned heavy. You could hear the tension settle like dust. Chloe broke first, her sobs coming in waves. Olivia kept her gaze glued to the carpet, unable to face me. Mira slowly shook her head, as if sheer denial might erase what had just happened, as if she could undo everything by refusing to acknowledge it. How long? I asked, my voice rough, barely more than a growl. Silence. I took a step closer, staring hard at Mira. How long? She still wouldn't meet my eyes. It was Olivia who broke the silence, her voice barely a whisper. Dad, just listen. How long? I snapped, this time loud enough to shake the walls. They all jumped at the sound of it. Mira finally opened her mouth, barely audible. 15 months. The words punched the air out of my lungs. I felt like I'd been blindsided. I turned toward my daughters. And you too? My voice trembled. Equal parts fury and heartbreak. How long have you been helping her lie? Pretending like everything's fine while I'm the clueless idiot sitting at the dinner table? Chloe's shoulders quivered as she cried harder. Daddy, I'm sorry, she choked out. Mom said it wasn't serious, that it was just a phase, something she needed to sort out. Stop talking, Mira cut in suddenly, her voice like a whip. Just stop. I spun to face her. No, let her finish. Mira clamped her mouth shut, clearly biting back more words. And that's when it hit me. The realization crashing down like a wave. The people standing in front of me weren't the same ones I had raised or grown old with. They weren't my family, not in the way I had believed. Olivia stood tall, arms folded, that calm, unreadable expression she always wore in stressful moments. Chloe looked like she'd been shattered. Mira just seemed empty. It wasn't what you think, Olivia said coolly, her tone clinical, like she was giving a status update at work. Mom wasn't happy, you were always gone, buried in your job. She felt alone, she needed more. You're blaming me? I asked, stunned. I'm not blaming you, she replied, but her voice gave her away. I'm saying there were problems. You weren't really around emotionally, you didn't want to talk. You were physically present, but your mind was always somewhere else. I stared at her, my own daughter, reciting lines like she'd rehearsed them, detached, mechanical. So that gives her a pass to cheat on me? My voice was shaking now. That makes it okay for you to lie to my face for over a year. No one said it was okay, she replied. Don't you dare try to justify this, I barked, jabbing a finger in her direction. There's no excuse. None. Finally, Mira spoke again, barely above a whisper. I was planning to end it. I just hadn't figured out when. To confess or to leave. I cut in sharply. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. You know what really guts me, I said, sweeping my gaze across all of them. My voice was raw now, barely holding together. It's not just the affair. As awful as that is, it's the lying. The way you all sat there with me night after night, smiling, cracking jokes, pretending we were still a family. Do you know how humiliating that feels? Chloe tried to speak through her crying. We didn't want to hurt you. Well, I said with venom, you failed at that. She recoiled like I'd slapped her across the face. A flicker of guilt crept up inside me, but it was buried beneath so much betrayal I couldn't feel it. So what now? Olivia asked flatly, arms still crossed. She looked like someone reading a checklist, already planning her next move while I was drowning in wreckage. What now? I repeated bitterly. Now I want all three of you out of this house. Dad, please, Chloe said, stepping toward me, eyes bloodshot and desperate. Can we talk? I made mistakes. I didn't know what to do. Out, I shouted, pointing at the front door. Now, all of you. Mira grabbed Chloe's arm and turned to leave. Olivia followed them, her face hard and emotionless, like she was annoyed rather than ashamed. None of them argued. None of them begged. They just left. Mira practically dragged Chloe behind her, sobbing all the way to the car. When the door slammed shut, the silence that followed hit me like a blow to the chest. I stood there, breathing hard, then finally dropped onto the couch like my legs couldn't hold me up anymore. The ache in my chest felt so real it might as well have been a wound. The house felt haunted, lifeless, empty in the worst way. I got up and drifted through the living room in a daze. I looked at the family photos on the walls, snapshots of vacations, birthdays, holidays, Olivia in her graduation gown, Chloe at prom, smiling faces, moments that once felt real. Now they looked staged and fake. My eyes locked onto one photo of all four of us at Olivia's college graduation. We were beaming, arms around each other, like nothing in the world could break us. I tore it from the wall and hurled it at the floor. The glass shattered, the sound echoing through the house. For a second, I felt relief. Then worse, like even that photo had turned against me. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even try. I sat in the dark, eyes wide, trying to figure out how my life had unraveled so completely. My brain wouldn't stop. Every memory, every moment from the past year replayed over and over, every warning sign I'd ignored, every lie I'd swallowed. I felt like a fool. My phone buzzed constantly with messages and missed calls from all of them. I didn't respond. What could I even say? The next day, Dexter dropped by with some takeout and that worried look he gets when he knows I'm on the edge. You can't stay here, man, he said quietly. This place feels like a tomb. I didn't move, didn't even answer. He set the food down and promised to check in tomorrow. I never touched it. The following days felt like a fog I couldn't escape. I called my supervisor and said there was a personal emergency at home. It wasn't even a stretch. I didn't leave the house, didn't change clothes, barely touched any food. Most of the time I just sat around staring at my phone, scrolling endlessly through Mira's messages. At first it was all regret and apologies. I'm so sorry. Please let me explain, Hunter. We can fix this. Please don't shut me out. I never wanted to hurt you. But before long the tone turned. You're being unreasonable. The texts kept pouring in, first begging, then guilt-tripping, and eventually manipulative. We need to have an adult conversation. Later came a softer push. I'm worried about you. Just let me know you're okay. I never wrote back. Not once. As far as I was concerned, she no longer existed in my world. I'd spent 30 years working myself to the bone. Late nights, extra jobs, stretching every dollar to give her and the girls everything I possibly could. And after all that, she tossed it aside for a fling with her manager. That was her decision. Let her live with it. What hit harder, what left a deeper cut, was Olivia and Chloe. My daughters, my blood, the ones I held when they cried, supported through every scraped knee and heartbreak, raised with everything I had. And they were part of it. Not only did they know, they protected her. They played along, sitting across from me during dinner, laughing, sharing stories, hugging me, all while keeping this ugly truth buried behind fake smiles. That betrayal haunted me. Then I got a message from Olivia. "What you're doing isn't fair to anyone. Let me know when you're ready to talk like an adult." I stared at the screen, stunned, condescending, righteous, like I was the one who caused this mess, like I needed to mature and move on. It took everything in me not to hurl the phone across the room. I didn't, but my grip was so tight I thought I'd crack the glass. Chloe was different. She kept calling, leaving voicemail after voicemail. I ignored them for days. But one night, for reasons I still don't fully understand, maybe out of habit or maybe hope, I finally listened. Her voice trembled, raw and broken. "Daddy, please talk to me. I know I messed up. I just didn't want our family to fall apart. Mom told me if I said anything, you'd leave. And I got scared. I'm sorry. Please don't hate me. God, that crushed me." I closed my eyes, the phone warm in my hand, and all I could see was that little girl with missing front teeth, running through the yard with fists full of dandelions. "Flowers for Daddy," she used to call them, falling asleep on my chest with her hair sticky from juice and cartoons buzzing in the background. Now she was part of the lie, a willing participant in Mira's deception. After about a week of isolation, Dexter finally kicked the door open one afternoon. He didn't bother knocking, just strolled in with takeout in one hand and a stern expression on his face. "That's it," he said. I looked up from the couch. "What is?" "You're done sitting around like a ghost. You've been locked in here for a week, staring into space. You're not gone, Hunter, it feels like it, but you're still here. Time to act like it." I opened my mouth to argue, but he cut me off. "No more of that 'I'm fine' crap. I said I'm fine. No, you're not. But you could be. You just have to do something about it. Let's go." He was right. As much as I wanted to bury myself under the weight of it all, I couldn't. I needed to take control again. So I picked up the phone and called the attorney Dexter had mentioned. Hector, a straight shooter who didn't waste words, which I respected. I laid it all out, every text, every detail, the affair, the video, the photos. He leaned back in his chair and gave a firm nod. "You've got solid evidence. That works in your favor, but you need to move carefully. First, do not leave the house. Courts could call that abandonment. Second, transfer half your funds to a separate account she can't touch. Don't drain it, just protect yourself. Third, and this is big, start documenting everything, every word, every move. It will matter." I nodded, jaw clenched, understood, and I followed through. I stayed put. I opened a new account and moved half of the joint savings. Nothing shady, just securing what was mine. I also changed the locks. That step felt like drawing a permanent boundary. I started recording and saving every exchange, texts, calls, any visit. So, when Mira showed up with Olivia a few days later, pounding on the front door like it was still her home, I was ready. I opened it just enough to step outside, with my phone already recording. "What do you want?" I asked. "I came to get my belongings," Mira said, with her arms folded and a defiant tilt to her chin. "You'll get your things when my lawyer clears it," I said calmly. Olivia exploded. "This is ridiculous," she snapped. "You think this is productive. You're acting like a child." I didn't move. I didn't say a word. Then she dropped the line she thought would break me. "My wedding is in 2 months. Are you seriously going to ruin it over one mistake?" I looked at her squarely. "A mistake," I said slowly, "is forgetting to pick up milk. What your mother did was a conscious decision. Every day for over a year." Her face tightened, but I wasn't finished. "And you," I added, "you were right there with her. You lied too." "I was trying to protect our family," she said, like that made it noble. "No, you were protecting her secret. That's not the same." Neither of them liked that. Their voices rose. Arguments flew. I barely registered what they were saying anymore. It was all just noise. Finally, they turned to leave. But Olivia had one more thing to throw at me. "You still promised to pay for the wedding. I expect you to keep your word." I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I just stared at her, then quietly closed the door in her face. 14 days. That's how long it had been since everything came crashing down. Since then, I'd been doing little more than going through the motions, get up, show up to work, get through the day, come home, stare into nothing, try and fail to sleep, repeat. Dexter and a couple of the guys made an effort, offering to grab drinks, watch a game, catch up like old times. I appreciated it, but I wasn't in the mood. Most of the time, I didn't have the energy to pretend. Chloe, though, she didn't give up so easily. She kept calling, texting, leaving messages I never replied to. And then one afternoon she showed up at the construction site where I was working. I was elbow deep in cement, heat radiating off my back. And there she was, red-eyed, hair a mess, hoodie halfway zipped, looking drained and worn out. Eventually, I agreed to sit down with her. We met at that little cafe on 5th Street, neutral ground. She was already inside when I arrived, sitting alone in a corner booth, nervously spinning a coffee cup in her hands. Her face was pale, her eyes had dark rings beneath them, wearing the same hoodie she wore in high school, frayed sleeves, old coffee stain near the collar. She stood as I approached. "I'm sorry, Dad," she blurted, voice cracking. "I know it doesn't change anything, but I really am. I should have said something." I sat across from her, arms crossed, silent. "Why didn't you?" She looked down, fiddling with the edge of the table. "That's what I keep asking myself," I said. "Why didn't you?" She cleared her throat. Mom said it was some kind of midlife crisis, that she just needed to get it out of her system. She told us that, if you ever found out, you'd never forgive her, that it would tear everything apart. I let the silence linger before I spoke again. "So instead, you let her tear apart my trust." The words hit her like a slap. She flinched. "I know it was wrong," Chloe said, her voice fragile. "But you were always working, Dad, always stressed, always gone." Mom felt alone. She raised her hands quickly, trying to soften the blow. "I'm not saying that makes what she did okay, it doesn't. But maybe if you'd been around more, if you'd noticed how unhappy she was." And there it was. Even in her apologies, she was still pointing fingers, still painting me as the guy who worked too hard and missed the warning signs. Like I was somehow responsible for Mira falling into someone else's arms. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "I busted my ass to give you and your sister the kind of life I never had. Put you both through school, kept a roof over our heads, gave you holidays, family vacations, birthday parties. I never missed the big moments." She nodded, eyes brimming with tears. "I know. If your mother wasn't happy, she had options. She could have told me, asked for therapy, asked for a divorce. Instead, she lied, she cheated, and you helped her cover it." Chloe seemed to shrink right in front of me. "I know," she whispered. "I'm just trying to explain, not justify." I looked at her, really looked, and part of me wanted to walk away, just get up and let her sit there drowning in the same betrayal I felt. But the other part of me still saw my little girl. That hadn't changed. The damage, though, that was real. "I need time," I said at last, barely holding my composure. "I don't know if I'll ever look at you the same way again." She nodded slowly, wiping her tears with the cuff of her hoodie. "Thanks for meeting me." She stood up and left. I didn't follow, didn't speak, I just sat there, ripped in two. One half wanting to call her back and hug her like nothing had changed, the other half wanting to shut the door forever. Meanwhile, the divorce dragged on. Messy, cold, expensive. Mira came after everything. She wanted half of every account, including the retirement savings I'd started before we even got married. She demanded the house, alimony, even tried to claim a share of my business, saying she'd sacrificed her own career to support mine. What a load. She'd been working full-time, ever since Chloe started elementary school. And Olivia, she kept sending me wedding bills, venue deposits, invoices from florists, receipts for dress fittings. Every message made my stomach twist. I never responded, not once, but the audacity, expecting me to fund her big day like nothing had happened. Then one night, I got a message I wasn't expecting. It was from Ezekiel. "Hi, Mr. Davis. Would you be open to meeting for coffee? I'd like to talk. I just want to understand what really happened." I said yes. Honestly, I was curious, maybe even a little impressed he reached out. We met at a roadside diner. The first thing he said when we sat down was, "Olivia doesn't know I'm here. She'd flip if she found out." I nodded. That tracked. "Let me guess," I said. "She told you I blew everything out of proportion." He looked uncomfortable. "She said you overreacted, that you kicked them all out over a temporary lapse in judgment, that you're refusing to pay for the wedding out of spite." "Of course," I muttered. "But I knew something was off," he added. So I told him the truth. All of it. The cheating, the cover-up, the footage, the texts, the 15 months of secrets, the betrayal, not just from Mira, but from the daughters I raised, the lies, the fake dinners, the hugs while I was being played. By the time I was done, Ezekiel looked like he'd swallowed a brick. I had no idea, he said softly, shaking his head. Not a clue it was this serious. Yeah, I said, leaning back in the booth. Neither did I until it hit me square in the face. The truth was, I still didn't know what to do with any of it, especially when it came to Olivia and Chloe. Cutting them out completely felt too final. But trying to rebuild trust with people who didn't seem to understand how deeply they'd hurt me, that felt just as impossible. Chloe might come around. Olivia, I couldn't even tell if she realized how deep the damage went. To her, it was all explanations and excuses. But Mira, that chapter was over, closed and locked. There was no coming back from what she did. No apology, no therapy, no emotional breakdown at midnight would undo it. I filed for divorce. End of story. Work turned into my anchor, the only place where the shadows didn't follow. I buried myself in it. Early mornings, late nights, working through the weekends just to drown the noise. My crew could tell something wasn't right, but they never pushed. If I zoned out or needed to be alone, they gave me space, no questions, just quiet support. I appreciated that more than they knew, but things with the divorce got nasty fast. Mira's attorney came out guns blazing, painting me as the distant husband too busy for his wife's emotional needs. As if me working long hours made her fall into bed with her superior. My lawyer wanted to settle quickly, minimize damage and cost, but this wasn't about finances anymore. It was about standing up for what was right. She betrayed me, lied, snuck around. She didn't get to walk away with half of everything and sleep peacefully at night. Ezekiel called yesterday. We got into it, he said, voice tense. I told her I knew about the affair, confronted her, she flipped, said I was choosing you over her, said I broke her trust. I couldn't help but chuckle. The irony was rich. That's the same thing I said. I mean, if she could lie to her own dad for more than a year, what makes you think you're exempt? I'm starting to wonder if the wedding's even a good idea, he said. You've got a good head on your shoulders, I told him. People who lie for family will lie to family. If she can spin the truth for over a year, she can do it again to anyone. Right on cue, Olivia had emailed me last week. A lengthy, wordy message full of therapy buzzwords, armchair psychology, and flowery nonsense about forgiveness and growth. Apparently, I just needed to face my pain, acknowledge my emotions, and let go so we could heal together. Like we were all going to hug it out and pretend nothing happened. She even included a list of wedding costs, tux reservations, flower payments, a bill from a bakery for a 3-layer cake. Like, I was still that dad beaming with pride and writing checks. I almost shredded the papers. Instead, I shoved them into a drawer and walked away. Chloe's been different since we saw each other at the cafe. She still checks in, but not like Olivia. No advice, no lectures, just gentle notes. Thinking of you today, Dad. Hope you're doing okay. Love you. I don't answer most of them, but I haven't blocked her either. I'm not sure what that says. Maybe I'm not ready to cut her off completely. Maybe I still see the little girl who used to fall asleep on my chest with cartoons in the background and drool soaking into my shirt. I don't know. But I can't bring myself to delete her messages. Dexter's been my constant through all of it. Reliable, never pushing, always showing up. Last weekend, he finally convinced me to go fishing with him and a couple of the guys. I almost canceled, thought about turning around, but I grabbed my old tackle box and climbed in the truck. Out on that lake, with the sun hitting the water, no buzzing phones, no legal stress, no reminders of what I'd lost, I felt free. I laughed, actually laughed, the first time in what felt like forever. Dexter passed me a beer and said, "Told you, you needed air." Then Monday hit me like a brick. My attorney called. "Hector," he said, "we just uncovered something big. Turns out Mira, the woman crying remorse one day, had been quietly trying to sell some of our shared assets before the paperwork was even finalized. Word got to us through a mutual friend. She and her boss were planning some grand vacation through Europe. As soon as this all blows over," she'd said. "Blows over?" I stood in the kitchen, phone to my ear, staring blankly out the window like I could already see them boarding the plane. "Don't worry," my lawyer said. "We filed an emergency motion. Accounts are frozen. She can't touch a cent. One small win, a splash of justice in an ocean of betrayal." But when it came to Olivia and Chloe, the waters stayed murky. I still loved them, as painful as that is to admit. Every time I got close to extending an olive branch, I remembered what they'd done. All the secrets, the sneaking around, the fake stories and made-up plans. They didn't just watch Mira lie. They helped her do it, backed her up, shielded her. And now the wedding's creeping closer. Olivia still expects me to walk her down the aisle, still sends texts about seating charts, fittings, RSVPs. Then she sent one that truly set me off. My stuff with mom shouldn't interfere with my big day. My stuff? Like it was some minor argument, like I was overreacting, like I hadn't been gutted by the people I trusted most. I stared at her message for a long time, then quietly set my phone down without replying. Anything I said would have been too much. I've thought about leaving, selling the house, disappearing, going somewhere new, somewhere quiet, starting fresh, hitting reset, but I haven't done it yet, because leaving now would feel like losing, like admitting I had something to escape from, like I was the one who'd wrecked everything, and I won't give them that satisfaction. Not yet. Just when I thought the drama couldn't sink any lower, life hit me with another low blow. I was sitting across from Hector, my attorney, in his office, flipping through the mountain of divorce paperwork. My head was pounding. Nights without sleep were catching up fast. He was studying something on his laptop when he casually said, "You might want to peek at social media. Sometimes the things people post work in our favor." "I don't use that garbage," I told him. "Always figured if something mattered, I'd hear about it." "Well, Mira does," he replied, rotating the screen toward me. Her Facebook page was pulled up. Even before reading anything, I felt a wave of nausea. There was a picture, Mira, Ronan, and Olivia, all beaming at some fancy upscale restaurant. Olivia stood in the center, glowing like the golden child, flanked by her perfect mom and the man who'd helped destroy our family. The caption read, "Grateful to be surrounded by love as we start this new chapter together." Ronan proposed. "Wedding plans begin once we finish helping Olivia with hers." Engaged. She was actually engaged. The divorce wasn't even finalized yet. Heck, we hadn't even reached a settlement, and she was already out there, publicly planning a new life. No shame, no pause, just broadcasting her fresh start to the world. And Olivia, my daughter, was right there, smiling beside them, celebrating what had completely gutted everything we had built. I kept scrolling, hollowed out, until I landed on Olivia's comment. "So thrilled for you both. 2 weddings to plan." How lucky are we? 2 weddings. Like this was some kind of fairy tale and not the brutal unraveling of a 30-year marriage. Like the betrayal, the deception, the months of secrecy didn't even register. I was still losing sleep, lying awake in that cold bed, staring at the ceiling, asking myself what I missed. And they were out there, pretending like it was all one big love story. Hector clicked on another post. This one showed Ronan and Olivia shopping together, supposedly picking out decor for her big day, all sweet captions and glowing praise. Then I saw it. Olivia had tagged the post, "Love my bonus dad." Bonus dad! I barked out a sharp, bitter laugh that didn't quite make it past my throat. Bonus dad! Are you kidding me? That did it. Something inside me cracked wide open. All the guilt, the what-ifs, the inner torment, it just evaporated, replaced by a cold, razor-sharp clarity. "I need to revise my will," I told Hector, my voice steady. He looked up, a little surprised. "That's a big move, Hunter." "You certain?" "Absolutely," I said without flinching. "Mira gets only what the law says she's owed. No extras, no kindness, and I want both Olivia and Chloe removed entirely." He raised his eyebrows but didn't argue. "Got it. They made their choices," I muttered, staring at their gleaming, clueless faces on the screen. "Now it's my turn." That night, drained and half-functioning, I walked through the front door and dropped my keys on the counter. My phone buzzed. It was Ezekiel. "Hey," he said, his voice tight, like he'd been punched in the gut. "Didn't know if I should call, but you deserve to hear it." I leaned on the counter. "What's going on?" "I broke up with Olivia," he said. I paused. "Why?" "I found messages between her and Mira," he said, then stopped. "They were planning how to squeeze money out of you for the wedding, mapping it out. Word-for-word manipulation, guilt tactics, who to call, how to corner you emotionally." I couldn't believe what I was reading. We sat in silence for a beat. "You were right," he finally said. "I'm sorry, sir. I thought I knew who she was." "Thanks for telling me," I replied softly. "I mean that." He exhaled hard. "Still hurts. Thought she was someone I could build a future with." I did feel bad for him. He seemed like a decent guy, respectful, sincere. He'd gotten out just in time, but it clearly stung. Later that evening, my phone lit up again. It was Chloe. She was sobbing so hard I could barely make out the words. "Dad," she gasped, broken between tears. "Did you see it? The Facebook post? Mom and Ronan." Her voice cracked. "They're engaged. I didn't know. I found out the same way everyone else did, just scrolling online. I didn't interrupt. I let her cry. I asked her how she could do that with the divorce still going on, and she told me to grow up. Said I was being immature." And Olivia, of course, she defended her, called me dramatic, said I was overreacting. For a moment, I felt something. Hope, maybe. That Chloe was finally waking up, that she wasn't completely lost in the web of lies. But then she kept going. I just don't get why you all can't try to work it out. Why does it have to be all or nothing? People make mistakes. That was the trigger. No, I snapped, cutting her off. 15 months of lying isn't a slip-up. Leaving the lights on is a mistake. Lying to my face every day while carrying on an affair, that's a decision. A chain of decisions, ones you and your sister helped her make. I know, she said quickly. I know I was wrong. I'm not defending anything. I miss how things were. I let out a bitter chuckle. What we had wasn't real. What I believed was a lie. I'm done pretending. A pause. Then her voice came back, shaky. What do you mean done? I mean I'm moving on without any of you in my life. Her sobs deepened. Dad, please. I know I hurt you. I know I did, but I'm trying to fix it. I swear. It's too late, I said. I already changed my will. You and Olivia are out of it. Dead silence. Then a stunned whisper. You what? You heard me, I said. Met with Hector today. Everything I have goes to my brother now. You can't do that, she gasped. That's not fair. I can, I replied, and I already did. You all made your choices, now I've made mine. Then she hung up. I stood frozen, phone still in my hand, expecting guilt to flood in. But it didn't. Instead, something strange happened. I felt weightless, like a chain had been snapped. For the first time in ages, I wasn't sinking. I could breathe again. By the next morning, the backlash had begun. Olivia fired off a storm of furious messages, long, scathing rants packed with accusations. She called me spiteful, heartless, even claimed I was destroying her future, said I'd become unrecognizable, consumed by bitterness. Then Mira's lawyer got in touch with Hector, claiming I was acting out of revenge. The messages didn't stop there. Friends started chiming in, texts, missed calls, voice notes, classic guilt trip tactics. Everyone had something to say. I was being extreme, unforgiving, unreasonable. I should consider reconciliation for the sake of the family. That word again, family, as if it were something I could rescue, something that hadn't been burned to ash right in front of me. I listened to one voicemail and erased the rest. That night, I slept like a stone. No nightmares, no early morning panic attacks, just peace, quiet, rest. As I lay in the dark, it finally clicked. The family I thought I had, it was never real. Not really. I'd created that picture in my head, desperate to believe in something beautiful. But it was make-believe. The fractures were always there. I just chose to paint over them. When the truth finally shattered the illusion, there was nothing left. And maybe that's for the best. A painful truth is still better than a comforting fantasy. The divorce is finalized now. Mira walked away with far less than she expected. She didn't get the house, not a penny for my retirement, no alimony, just some settlement money and her car. Hector worked magic on our case. Between the bank statements, the text exchanges, the footage, we buried her legally. 2 weeks after signing the papers, Mira and Ronan tied the knot. Really classy. I sold the house. I couldn't live with the memories. Good or bad, everything was tainted. I found a smaller home closer to work. Simple, quiet, and completely mine. No rooms echoing with past laughter that had turned into lies. No kitchen haunted by the woman I used to kiss while she was already gone in every way that mattered. No stairs where my daughters conspired to keep secrets from me. No ghosts. No reminders. After I revised my will and told Chloe, she showed up at my door the next morning. I opened it to find her standing there, eyes red, mascara streaked down her cheeks. "Dad," she whispered, "please don't do this. I'll do whatever it takes. Just don't erase me like this." I let her in. We sat on the couch, bodies stiff, words cautious, like strangers pretending they remembered how to speak to each other. "I already explained this," I said calmly. "This isn't revenge. It's about drawing the line. Actions have consequences. But I've been trying," she pleaded, wringing her hands. "I've been trying to fix everything." "I believe you," I replied. "But not everything can be fixed. Not fully." We sat in silence. Then she looked up at me, voice low and bitter. "So that's it? 30 years of being a family and you're just done?" I stared back, unblinking. "I didn't throw it all away, Chloe. You did. You and your sister, you made that decision the moment you started lying to me for over a year. Every time I asked if something felt off, every fake girls' night out, every lie to protect your mother, you all tore it apart." She stood up slowly. "Fine," she said, voice sharp, "if that's the way it is." Then she left. I haven't heard from her since. Word got back to me that she moved in with Mira and Ronan, all one big happy unit now. Olivia got married last month to a doctor she met right after Ezekiel walked out. No invitation came my way. Not that I expected one. What I didn't expect was hearing from a friend that Ronan gave her away at the ceremony. That stung for about 60 seconds. Then I realized I didn't feel a thing. The funny thing about cutting toxic people out of your life is that it feels unbearable at first, like losing a limb. You keep reaching for something that's no longer there. The phantom pain lingers. But then, gradually, you begin to feel lighter, as if a pressure you never noticed is finally gone. You breathe easier, think clearer, everything feels less heavy. I've been seeing someone for a little while. Her name's Jessica. Met her at a friend's barbecue. I hadn't planned on going. Dexter practically dragged me there, said I was turning into a ghost that didn't know Halloween had passed. Classic Dexter. Jess was by the grill laughing with someone about how awful the potato salad tasted. We got to talking. It just worked. Easy, unforced, no masks, no effort. Just two people with too many scars and no patience for pretense. She's divorced, too. Her ex cheated on her with her sister of all people. When she told me that, I looked at her and said, "Wow, I thought my story belonged in a made-for-TV drama." She smirked and said, "We'd break box office records." We're keeping things simple. No rush, no pressure, but it's good. Really good. She knows everything, Mira, the girls, the whole miserable saga. And she doesn't flinch, doesn't tell me to forgive or rise above or look on the bright side. She just listens. Sometimes that's all I need. One night, while we sat on her porch sipping wine and listening to the crickets, she asked me, "Do you ever miss them?" I didn't answer right away. I had to search my own mind for something honest. Sometimes, I said, usually when I see a dad with his daughters at dinner, or when a song plays that they used to belt out in the car, or on their birthdays. Jess gave a quiet nod. She didn't interrupt. "But really," I said after a pause, "I think I miss who I believed they were, not who they actually turned out to be. I miss the version of Olivia and Chloe I thought I had, not the ones who stood by their mother's lies, not the ones who watched me fall apart and said nothing. The truth? I don't miss them. Not even a little." Not long ago, I bumped into Ezekiel at a local bar during the game. I was hanging with Dexter and a couple of buddies when I noticed him seated at the far end. He looked different, lighter, like some weight had finally been lifted off him. "Hey there, Mr. Davis," he greeted me, walking over with a beer in hand. "Just Hunter now," I said, tapping my bottle against his. We caught up briefly, talked about work, life, the usual small talk. He mentioned he was seeing someone new, smart, driven, no baggage. "It's peaceful this time," he told me. "Olivia got in touch a few weeks back, said she made a huge mistake and wanted to reconnect." I gave him a questioning look. "I turned her down," he said. "Told her I'm not someone's backup plan. She taught me a lot about what I won't tolerate. But you taught me what it means to respect myself, to stop accepting treatment that makes me feel invisible." That landed heavier than I expected. I gave his shoulder a firm pat. "Proud of you. Had a solid example," he said. "At least one worthwhile thing came from all the chaos." Just last week, I finished updating my will, met with Hector, signed everything, and walked out feeling like a burden had been lifted. Most of what I own is going to my brother and his kids. They've stood by me the whole way through, always dependable. I also created a small scholarship at the local community college for construction management. If I'm going to leave a legacy, I'd rather it support kids who appreciate the chance. Jess is still by my side, still making me laugh when I need it and calling me out when I start overthinking everything. A few nights ago, she handed me a beer and said, "You're brooding again. Keep it up and I'll blast some boy band hits from the 90s and make you dance." I didn't argue. I just laughed. "We've started talking about moving in together sometime next year. No urgency. We're just letting it unfold naturally. The path feels right, and she's got one incredible quality no one else had. None of her relatives ever stabbed me in the back. Major bonus." Every now and then, people ask if I regret cutting Olivia and Chloe out of my life entirely. I get the usual lines, but they're your daughters. Or, "Family is everything," or some other greeting card, wisdom that's supposed to erase everything they did. My response never changes. Family isn't just DNA, I tell them. It's about loyalty, honesty, and mutual respect. My daughters failed every part of that test. Maybe one day one of them will come to terms with what they've done, truly come to terms and apologize, with no excuses, no finger-pointing. Maybe pigs will sprout wings and fly. I'm not holding out for either. If this whole experience taught me anything, it's that you can't dictate other people's choices. The only thing you control is how you handle it. Mira decided to cheat. Olivia and Chloe decided to support her lies, chose to deceive me daily, looked me in the eye while watching me unravel, and said nothing. And I made the choice to leave all of them behind. The deepest pain didn't come from the cheating itself. That hurt, sure, but the real blow was understanding that the two people I loved most, the ones I would have laid down my life for, could betray me without hesitation, could watch me suffer and say nothing, and when it all came to light, somehow make me the villain for being hurt. One of the last real conversations I had with Chloe still lingers in my mind. She had the audacity to say, "Dad, maybe if you hadn't been so distant, Mom wouldn't have—" I didn't let her finish. "Stop right there," I said. "If you finish that thought, you and I are done." She rolled her eyes, like I was being overdramatic. "Maybe I was, but that doesn't change the truth. Once you realize the people you loved aren't the people you thought they were, you get the chance to start over. You can begin building something honest, not out of guilt or habit, but from real mutual care." So yeah, I'm doing better than I ever thought I would. This life doesn't look like the one I envisioned, but it's mine, and it's honest.